What is up, guys? Welcome back to Early Access Gamer. We're diving into 20 open world masterpieces that feel less like code and more like living, breathing ecosystems. From worlds where weather dictates your survival to cities where every NPC has a secret life, we're counting down the most immersive playgrounds ever built. You aren't just playing these games, you're living in them. Let's jump in. If a developer spends actual coding hours making sure a horse's anatomy reacts to the freezing cold, you know you are dealing with a completely different breed of open world. When Red Dead Redemption 2 launched on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One in October 2018, before hitting PC in November 2019, it set a terrifyingly high bar for environmental realism. The sheer level of detail Rockstar packed into this frontier is outright obsessive. We are talking about blood realistically smearing across Arthur's shoulder whenever you carry a fresh kill, and individual strands of hair and facial hair that react dynamically to the wind as you ride. The world does not just feel alive, it feels like it actively reacts to your presence. Every corner of this decaying American frontier behaves like a functioning ecosystem that genuinely does not care if you are there to witness it or not. It is the perfect place to kick off our list. Sliding into the number 19 spot is a masterpiece that originally launched back on May 19, 2015. I usually get bored just wandering aimlessly through massive fantasy maps, but the sheer atmospheric weight of The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt completely grabbed me. They did not have to go this hard on environmental immersion, but it makes a massive difference. We are talking about a world where the wind dynamically reshapes the environment around you. When a storm rolls in, you actually see the massive trees violently swaying, the tall grass bending to the gale, and clothes fluttering wildly on laundry lines in dilapidated villages. It is not just window dressing, it builds a tangible, heavy atmosphere that makes you feel the damp chill of the continent while tracking monsters. Over 11 years later, that incredible attention to environmental detail still sets a benchmark for making an open world feel alive. At spot 18, we have a masterpiece that redefined player freedom. I usually roll my eyes when open worlds promise realistic physics, but what Nintendo pulled off back in 2017 with The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild genuinely rewired my brain. Instead of just static environments, they gave us a systemic sandbox ruled by chemistry. The way the world reacts to your gear is brilliant. If you are freezing in the mountains, you do not even need to eat warm food. Just slinging a flame blade onto Link's back naturally raises his temperature. Swapping to an ice blade does the exact same trick in scorching deserts. Even the combat plays by logical rules. If you run low on ammo, you can literally farm arrows by raising a wooden shield to catch enemy shots, adding them directly to your inventory when you put it away. This level of mechanical reactivity makes Hyrule feel like a living ecosystem. At number 17, we are throwing ourselves back into 15th century Bohemia with Kingdom Come Deliverance, which launched back in 2018. I usually roll my eyes when games make you start as a useless weakling, but watching your protagonist, Henry, struggle just to swing a sword makes every single victory feel immensely earned. Since he is just an untrained blacksmith's son, you start out clumsy and ineffective. The physics-based combat system forces you to manage your stamina and direct your attacks with absolute precision. You actually have to practice and train to survive. The world itself is wonderfully alive, with inhabitants following strict daily schedules and reacting directly to your cleanliness and reputation. Some gamers do warn that this is a brutally unforgiving experience. With limited saves, hunger, and fatigue to manage, it completely rejects the standard power fantasy, but if you want a world that truly feels real and reactive, this is an absolute masterclass. Let us slide into number 16 with a world that had one of the most legendary redemption arcs in gaming history, Cyberpunk 2077. They did not have to go this hard rebuilding this world, but the way Night City feels today is an absolute triumph of urban design. It is a towering vertical megalopolis where acid rain slicks the neon-drenched streets. The sheer density is mind-blowing, with dynamic pedestrian AI and gang territories that actively shift based on your reputation in street fights. Traversing this concrete jungle is pure joy when you chain dashes, double jumps, and air dashes to parkour across rooftops, dropping down with the default Hidden Dragon aerial takedown. If you are playing on the PlayStation 5 Pro, the standard mode delivers a beautiful, stable 60 frames per second using PlayStation Spectral Super Resolution upscaling, while the performance mode targets a buttery smooth 90 frames per second with variable refresh rate. It feels like a living, breathing, beautifully dangerous future. At number 15, we have Watch Dogs 2. I am always a sucker for games that let you cause absolute chaos without firing a single bullet, and this one delivers. Released back in late 2016, it was a massive step up from its predecessor, particularly with how alive the San Francisco Bay Area feels. You can literally stand on a street corner and watch NPCs walk dogs, take selfies, get into shouting matches, or call the police on one another. The real magic, though, is how you manipulate this environment. The systemic design lets you scout areas with drones and RC cars, hack scissor lifts to reach high vantage points, or sabotage air conditioning units to trap enemies. It turns the entire city into a giant reactive puzzle box where a stealthy, non-lethal playstyle is just as viable and way more fun than running and guns blazing. If a game promises a world that genuinely does not care if you exist, I am immediately hooked. S.T.A.L.K.E.R 2 Heart of Chornobyl delivered exactly that when it launched back in late 2024. The star of the show is the A-Life 2.0 system, which simulates the entire exclusion zone as a living, breathing ecosystem. Factions and mutants migrate, hunt, and wage war in the background without your input. You might walk into a ruined village only to stumble upon the bloody aftermath of a firefight you had absolutely nothing to do with. Now, players have pointed out that they want a wider simulation range so these emergent events do not just spawn right on top of you, and fans are still hoping for fixes to quirky enemy AI and micro-stutters, but stepping into a world this hostile and beautifully unpredictable makes every single survival run feel completely earned. Coming in at number 13, we have Dragon's Dogma 2. Capcom really didn't have to go this hard on making an environment feel so beautifully chaotic, but the sheer unpredictability makes it an absolute blast. Released back in March of 2024, this fantasy world operates on brilliant emergent physics. You have autonomous monsters clashing with traveling merchants, while your AI companions, known as pawns, learn behaviors from other players' worlds to assist you. But the real magic is how you weaponize the environment. You can smash open a dam to flood a valley, shatter rope bridges to drop massive beasts, or physically grab onto a griffin mid-flight to ride it into the sky. Whether you are throwing enemies off cliffs, tossing them into water, or crushing them with boulders, every battle feels unscripted and dangerously alive. Taking the number 12 spot is a masterpiece that proves less is definitely more. When Ghost of Tsushima launched back in July of 2020 on the PlayStation 4, it completely changed how we interact with open worlds. I usually get totally exhausted by cluttered minimaps, but this game throws traditional markers out the window, using the guiding wind, drifting smoke, and golden birds to lead you naturally through feudal Japan. The island feels reactive to its core, wildlife guides you to hidden shrines, weather shifts dynamically based on how dishonorably you fight, and Mongol patrols actively react to your growing legend. But they did not just stop at atmospheric immersion. The real-time combat stance system is brilliant, forcing you to fluidly shift between stone, water, wind, and moon styles to counter different foes, like using the water stance to break shield bearers or wind to bypass spearmen. It is gorgeous, tactile, and incredibly alive. Coming in at number 11, we have Grand Theft Auto V. It launched way back in September 17th, 2013, but the simulated chaos of Los Santos still puts modern releases to shame. What makes this satirical take on Southern California feel so incredibly alive is how the world functions completely independent of you. Pedestrians jog, argue, and react instantly to your driving or clothes, while emergency services respond dynamically to the madness you create. But they absolutely nailed it with the 3-character system. Being able to hot swap between Michael, Franklin, and Trevor at any moment keeps the pacing relentless, especially during those massive multi-layered heists. Each protagonist brings unique skills to the table, like Franklin slowing down time behind the wheel, or Michael channeling his interaction star. It turns a massive sandbox into a highly responsive playground of beautiful, unpredictable destruction. Coming in at number 10 is an absolute titan that defined a generation of RPGs. I still get a massive kick out of how this world manages to feel like a genuine, functioning society. We are talking about the legendary The Elder Scrolls V Skyrim, which originally launched all the way back in November 2011. What makes this frozen province so magical is the Radiant AI system. Instead of standing around like static quest givers, NPCs have full autonomous daily routines. They work in mines, socialize at the local tavern, and head home to sleep. Even cooler is the persistent world state. If you drop a valuable sword in the middle of a bustling street, it stays there. Better yet, passing citizens will actually notice your discarded gear, react to it, or even start a fist fight over who gets to keep it. It is that micro-level reactivity that keeps this world feeling alive today. Moving down to number 9, we are heading back to ancient Egypt with Assassin's Creed Origins. Released way back in late 2017, this game completely revitalized the franchise by crafting a world that truly breathes. I usually get bored of massive maps, but the way Ubisoft simulated daily life here is an absolute masterclass. You can just stand by the Nile and watch farmers tend crops, priests perform rituals, and local wildlife like crocodiles and hippos dynamically hunting. The whole ecosystem functions on a 24-hour cycle, complete with sudden sandstorms that blind you and your enemies alike. But my absolute favorite mechanic is Senu, your pet eagle. Tagging targets and planning your tactical infiltration from a bird's eye view feels incredibly empowering. Sadly, if you are playing on PC, recent Windows 11 version 24H2 updates have absolutely broken the experience for many players, causing constant freezing and rendering this gorgeous recreation unplayable. Moving down to number 8, we plunge into the terrifying depths of an alien ocean planet. I usually absolutely dread underwater levels in video games, but Subnautica completely flips the script by making the entire ocean feel like a massive, breathing entity. Released back in 2018, this survival gem drops you into a fully realized aquatic ecosystem where every creature has a distinct role, from harmless baitfish to colossal leviathans. What makes this world so incredibly tense is how you interact with it. Take the Cyclops submarine, for instance. When you are piloting this massive vessel through infested pitch-black waters, you can actually trigger a silent running mode. Cutting the engine power to drift past a massive predator turns a standard resource run into a heart-stopping game of stealth. It is an absolute masterclass in tension, forcing you to rely entirely on sound and positioning to survive the deep. Coming in at number 7 is a game that famously polarized players but stands as an absolute masterpiece of environmental design. I usually roll my eyes when people dismiss a title as a walking simulator, but Death Stranding turns the very act of traversing a landscape into a thrilling high-stakes puzzle. Released back in late 2019, this post-apocalyptic world treats the rugged terrain itself as your primary adversary, demanding you constantly manage your balance, cargo weight, and stamina. What makes this world feel terrifyingly alive is the timefall, a dynamic rain that accelerates the aging of everything it touches. You will watch flowers sprout and wither in real time as you trek through the wilderness, while the downpour actively degrades your gear, forcing you to seek shelter or use protective sprays. Add in invisible sound-sensitive entities called BTs, and a brilliant asynchronous multiplayer system where players collaboratively rebuild infrastructure over time, and you get an ecosystem that is profoundly atmospheric. I usually get tired of modern shooters holding my hand, but our 6th spot goes to a game that happily kicks your teeth in. Far Cry 2, which dropped back in October 2008, remains an absolute pioneer of immersive, systemic open-world design. Its Dunia engine introduced a legendary fire propagation system that still blows my mind today. Toss a Molotov and watch the flames spread dynamically across dry grass and terrain, shifting realistically with the wind direction to trap enemies or accidentally burn down your own cover. Sure, some players found the constant malaria management and those relentless respawning checkpoints a bit polarizing. But for anyone craving pure, unscripted realism and an oppressive, unyielding atmosphere, this war-torn African territory is unmatched. It is a brutal, beautiful cult classic that trusts you to survive on your own merits. Coming in at number 5 is a game that completely redefined the dark fantasy sandbox. When From Software unleashed Elden Ring back in February 2022, they proved that a massive open world could feel genuinely alive, dangerous, and unpredictable. I usually get fatigued by sprawling maps, but the lands between kept me hopelessly hooked. The dynamic day-night cycle and shifting weather actually impact how you play, altering your stealth efficiency and even tweaking elemental damage on the fly. Wandering bosses patrol actual routes, factions clash over crumbling ruins, and the wildlife reacts instantly to your presence. But what really elevates the combat to a whole new level is the brilliant Ashes of War system. Being able to freely customize your weapons with unique skills and affinities gives you insane build flexibility. It makes every single encounter feel fresh, reactive, and entirely yours to shape as you push to alter the Golden Order itself. Taking our number 4 spot is Horizon Forbidden West. When this masterpiece launched back in February 2022, it completely redefined how we traverse post-apocalyptic ruins. I usually get tired of climbing mountains in open world games, but the way you move here is an absolute masterclass. The shield wing lets you glide effortlessly from towering peaks, while the pullcaster grapple hook shoots you vertically into the action, making the entire map feel incredibly layered. It remains an absolute technical showcase on the PlayStation 5. You can play in resolution mode for a native 4K at 30 frames per second, or opt for performance mode, targeting a buttery smooth 60 frames per second using checkerboard 1800p. Dynamic resolution scaling keeps both options looking flawless as you explore a living ecosystem of patrolling machines and reactive human tribes. This is how you make a world feel truly alive. Claiming the number 3 spot on our list is a masterpiece that completely redefines what a living world can be. I'm talking about Outer Wilds, which landed back in May 2019. Most open worlds wait around for you to trigger a quest, but this game has the absolute audacity to run on its own strict clockwork schedule, and I am utterly obsessed with how terrifyingly indifferent it is to your existence. You are dropped into a miniature solar system governed by real-time physics and a tight 22-minute time loop. Piloting your ship requires manually accounting for momentum and gravity to land on these shifting celestial bodies. On Giant's Deep, colossal tornadoes literally hurl entire islands into space, while a pair of hourglass planets transfer sand between them. Everything eventually ends when the sun goes supernova, creating a clockwork universe that operates entirely independently of you. Just missing out on our top spot is a legendary classic that proved size isn't everything when it comes to immersion. Originally launching way back in 2002, Gothic II built an ecosystem that feels more alive than projects released decades later. I absolutely love how unforgiving this environment is. If you draw a sword in town or trespass, the NPCs don't just stand there, they will beat you down. Even better, characters possess a persistent memory system. They will actually remember your transgressions, refusing to talk to you, or reacting with hostility down the line. To get the absolute best experience, you need to play the Night of the Raven expansion, which perfectly rebalances the brutal difficulty. Granted, players often complain that the combat feels clunky and inconsistent due to a lack of clear attack telegraphs, but once you get past that, the monsters warning you before they strike and the reactive factions make this world feel like a genuine breathing society. And finally, we have reached the absolute number 1 spot on our list, and it belongs to a masterpiece that perfected the living, breathing nightmare. Dying Light, which launched way back in January 2015, remains the ultimate gold standard. The City of Haran features a dynamic day-night cycle that completely flips the ecosystem on its head. During the day, you get to play with a brilliant parkour system, scrambling onto rooftops and navigating the city skyline to effortlessly outmaneuver the slow, shambling infected. It turns the entire urban landscape into a high-stakes playground where verticality is your best friend. But when the sun goes down, the entire vibe shifts. Highly hostile, agile predators emerge from the shadows, instantly turning you from the hunter into the hunted in a deeply tense survival loop. I usually get bored of zombie settings, but the sheer panic of navigating this responsive world at night is unmatched. And that's our list for the 20 best open world games that actually feel alive. From bustling city streets to reactive wildernesses, these worlds truly set the gold standard for immersion. But what did we miss? Did your favorite living world make the cut? Or is there an underrated gem we overlooked? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more deep dives. Here are some more videos of ours you can watch. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.